Hi everybody, this is Stephen for Bland Designs, and this is CRAP number 11 video, and CRAP stands for Creative Relaxation and Play. And today I'm going to play around in my art journal, and I'm going to be focusing on the Oxide Inks by Tim Holtz, and I'm going to try maybe a couple of things with these to build up a background, and where I go from there, I don't know. So with every crap video, you never know. I might get something awesome. I might get something that's really crappy. So you'll just have to stay tuned and watch for this. So I've already started creating a background on this page, and for this, I'm doing a technique that I saw Ian from the Off Kilter Crafter doing when he was making one of his cards. And what he did was he took a piece of acetate, and I know it's kind of difficult to see this in this light in the camera. I'll put a little sheet of colored paper in behind it. And what he did was he takes his Oxide inks, dabs them onto the acetate, spritzes it with a little bit of water, and then smushes it around onto the background. So I'm going to try that, and I'm going to try to build up this background with multiple colors using the properties of the Oxide inks. And I'm going to have to dry between each layer because I think you get better coverage when you do that. So I'm just going to move this slightly over to the side so you can see what I'm doing here. As I said, I've already got a layer of the Distress Oxide Cracked Pistachio, and now I think I'm going to add some broken china. So just get it out here. So this is the broken china. And what I'm doing is I'm just taking it direct from the pad and just laying down a little bit of it. And these pads are pretty juicy because they're pretty new. And I'm just going to spritz it with a little bit of water, just lightly, so it just runs a bit. And then I'm just going to turn it and smush it down. And I'm going to try and get a fair amount of ink on here. Now my pages have already been pre-gessoed, and I find that that works a little better than just the raw paper itself. It allows the ink to stay more on the surface. They're pretty colors. And I think I'll need a little bit more here, so okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this layer, and I'm going to add some more layers to this as well. The thing about the Oxide inks is that when they react to the water, like the Distress inks, they will be reactivated. But if you get more of a watercolor effect, because that when it hits the water makes the inks take on a bit of a patina. And if you put water droplets on them as well, you'll get some neat watermark effects too as you dry it. And I'll show you what I mean here in a moment once I add a few more layers of color. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me go through all of this and the drying between each layer. I'm just going to add one more layer, and then I'll speed the video up, or cut actually, to whatever I'm going to do next after that. But let's add another color, and I think what I'm going to do is use the fossilized amber next. And the other thing is, no matter what the colors are, unlike the Distress inks, when they get reactivated with the water and they start to run together, they create mud, depending on the color combination that you use. Not so with the Oxide inks. You can see each layer of color through the one before it. But I do find that by drying between layers, that does help as well. So they are definitely different from the Distress inks. And I really like working with them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to finish adding some more layers to this and drawing between each layer, and then I'll be back. Okay, so now I've laid down about 6 layers of color. With each color that I laid down, I dried the page before I laid down the next color. And the colors that I used were the Cracked Pistachio, Worn Lipstick, Broken China, Fossilized Amber, Fired Brick, and Spiced Marmalade. And you can see the colors coming up between each layer, and you're not getting mud. You're actually seeing the colors here. If I was to do this with regular Distress ink, because of the water reactivation of the inks, I would get mud. Now though, here's the trick. This is an art journal, right? So in an art journal, we do layers, and we apply wet medium on top of each layer. This is not permanent. Even though I've dried it, right now it's dry, but it's not permanent. Once it hits anything wet, it's going to reactivate and move. And I want to preserve what I have here. So how can I do that? Well, get yourself some clear gesso. Okay, this is one by Finnabar. I haven't tried it yet, but in one of my art journal classes we did some stuff with clear gesso, and I was using one by, I think it was Liquitex or Golden, one or the other, and it was a bit gritty. This, according to the people in my class who bought this, they found this a little smoother. So that's what I'm going to try. Now this is a brand new jar, so I've never opened it before. I'm just going to scrape off the excess here on that label. And I'm getting it all over me, but that's okay. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put a little bit out off here to the side. I've got a piece of wax paper, and maybe I'll do it over here. Can't get everything in the shot, but I'll try. Okay, I'm going to take a palette knife and I'm just going to scoop a little bit of this out onto a piece of wax paper, just for the sake of easier cleanup. And since I know that if I was to use a brush in this and start going all over here to seal this, I would get the colors would reactivate and start to run together. So I want to make that a minimal amount of the blending happening. So I'm going to use a mini ink tool with a foam applicator. And I'm just going to dip it in here, and instead of brushing, I'm just going to dab it all over my page. Now there will still be some reactivation and some movement, but because I am not going back and forth like I would with a paintbrush, you see it reactivated there, it's not going to move as much. Doing this fairly quickly, and I'm trying to give it fairly even coverage, but if I miss the odd spot here and there, it's really not going to make any difference. Also, I'm not worried about making this perfectly smooth, because it's just going to add texture, and that's okay. All I'm trying to do is get a coat of this on to preserve the oxide inks that are underneath. And you want to know something? I just realized something I was going to do and I forgot to do it. I was going to spritz this with some water to get more watermark effects. Oh well. I might do that on the next layer, because what I'm thinking here is, okay, I'm going to need more of this, is that these layers of oxide that I've put down are not, it's not really dark, it's more pastel-y in parts. So I'm wondering if I lay down this clear gesso to protect this one layer, what'll happen if I do the same process again with the oxide inks that I did to create this layer, but I do it on top of the clear gesso. I'm just wondering if that will deepen the color. We'll see. Not sure, but this is why this is a crap video, because we never know if my little experiments are going to work and turn out awesome, or turn out to be crap. So I've just about got the whole page covered, and I'm trying not to overwork this. I'm just dabbing up here some of the areas where I got it a little bit thicker, trying to spread it out a little bit more evenly. Again, I'm dabbing, I'm not stroking, because I don't want too much movement. Okay, I think I'm pretty much covered now, so I'm going to go off camera for a moment and I'm going to dry this and then I'll be back. Okay, so now my clear gesso is dry, and just some little things that happened while I was drying it. One, you can see these little rivulets in the oxidized ink. I think they're kind of neat, the little veiny patterns. I don't know if the camera's picking them up. If you look right down there, can you see the little veiny parts? And you see little circles. That's from the dabbing with the ink applicator. That doesn't really bother me at all. I think it actually adds some interest to the page, so that's a bit of a bonus. Also, you'll see a few parts here, again, maybe not easy to see on the camera, but like here, where it looks like I've torn up some of the paper. Well, I actually did. There were some clumps of clear gesso on here that were a little thick, and as I was drying them, so I dabbed them up with a baby wipe, and it kind of didn't tear the paper, just pulled the color off it. So you got to be careful with that as well. But this Finnabar, yeah, it's by Finnabar, I think. Yeah, Finnabar. This Art Basics Clear Gesso is very, very smooth as compared to the Golden or the Liquitex, which must have coarser grounds in them or whatever, because their clear gesso, there's a little damp spot right there. Their clear gessos tend to be a little bit more gritty. Again, it doesn't really affect their performance, but it's just whatever you like. But I'm really liking this. So, and you don't use a lot of clear gesso, so really, yeah, it's a bit pricey. I paid $13.29 for a jar of this, whereas for less money than that, I get a much bigger bottle of the clear gesso from Golden or Liquitex. But, you know, for the little amount that I use, that's fine. So this is all dry, pretty much. That spot was a little damp. And I want to make sure this is thoroughly dry too, because I don't want anything getting reactivated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same process I did a few minutes ago, but with different colors of Oxide inks. I'm just going to move this a little bit so you can see it. So I've got my acetate sheet here, and I'm going to apply some other colors. And I think I'm going to start with the Distress Oxide Wilted Violet. Oops, good shot. Throw it around the room. Yeah, no problem. And I'm just going to place some of that on my acetate sheet. Again, missed it. And apply it. And I think I'm going to add some more. Now again, my whole idea of putting the clear gesso on is so that the layers are underneath it are protected and they won't be reactivated when I'm applying these new colors. And all I'm doing is I'm trying to get a little bit more depth of color on my page by doing this. Okay, so we're going to dry this layer. I'm really liking what's happening here. And you see by using the clear gesso, you can see my layers that are underneath it while protecting them. So clear gesso is actually a pretty remarkable product, because let's say you put down a background with scrapbook paper or magazine collage or something. And you really want to protect that so that there wouldn't be any chance of bleeding. If you put some clear gesso over top of that, whatever you put on top of it will be protected. Also, you know how some pens will not write on, if you've got matte medium on your page, you know, layers of acrylic paint, a lot of pens will not write on that at all. But if you put down a layer of clear gesso, let it dry, pretty much almost any pen will, or marker, will write on that surface now. So that's a bonus as well. Okay, I think I've got that pretty much dry, and I am liking that. So now I think I'm going to go for maybe the, well, let me clean off first of all. Actually, I think I'm going to have a very pretty baby wipe when I'm done all of this. So I have other videos where you've seen me save the baby wipes because of their colors and use them on layouts or on tags and things. I think this is going to be one to add to the collection. So I'm going to use some faded jeans next. I'm just going to add a little bit more. One advantage of having it on a piece of acetate as well, you can see through the acetate, so you can see where you're putting stuff. Ooh, got a drip over there. Okay. Yeah, I'm liking that. So let's give it a dry. You get some neat patterning too in spots of this as well. I'm really liking this background. Okay, I think that's dry enough. And I'm going to add just one more color, and I'm going to add iced spruce. Oops, I better clean off though my little acetate sheet first of all. So iced spruce, which is kind of this bluey, gray, greeny kind of color. Okay, I think that's enough of that, and I think I've got enough color on here. So I'm going to dry this, and then what I was going to do next, oh yeah, I want to activate this. Don't want to forget that. I want to get some of those drops, watermarks onto it. And by the way, if you don't like here I got a little clump here, you can take your baby wipe and dab, or a paper towel as well. And actually, because it'll still move when you do that, you can get some neat texture happening too. So give this a good dry. And then I'm going to spritz some water on it. Actually, what I think I'll do is I'll put the water in my hand and so I can get some bigger drops. And I have found before when I've tried this method with the Oxide inks that at first you don't see any reaction, but as you dry it, as you dab it, you'll get the effect. So that should be good. Okay, let me do a quick cleanup here and get this out of my way. Okay, move this into the shot a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to spray it in my hand. And I'm just sort of flinging it from my fingers onto the page. I can see it reacting. Now, this would look great if I had done this. Oh, yeah, sure, put water all over the computer too. That's good. Ooh, I'm getting some happening here. Maybe it was too much water. Okay, if that happens, lightly dab it. Yeah, I might have got a little carried away there, but you see, it's starting to come up here. Now, let's say that I wasn't happy with this result. No big worries. I could just dry it and just do the process on top of it all over again, add more color. And this is the beauty of the Oxide Distress Inks. You can build layer upon layer upon layer because it won't turn to mud. The other colors will come through. And keep doing this until you get the effect that appeals to you. Now here, I've got a couple of puddles happening, so I'm just going to dab them lightly. Yes, it does take the ink off that layer, but my layer underneath, the original layers I put down, are protected by that clear gesso. I'm really loving this page right here. Well, I like both pages. I'm almost going to be ashamed to cover a lot of this up with my other layers of whatever I'm going to do here, which is what I'm thinking of now. What am I going to do? Well, I do want to protect this layer because I know that I'm going to be using matte medium at some point. It's wet, it's going to make everything run. So, but I think I want to add some rubber stamping, some texture with rubber stamps, and I think I'll put those on with Stays On ink. So I can either cover this with clear gesso first, or I can do the rubber stamping and then I'll cover it with the clear gesso. With Stays On ink, it stays on. It doesn't matter if it gets wet. But I'm just wondering if initially when I put it down here, I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to put the clear gesso on top of this first just to preserve this. Better safe than sorry. And then I'm going to do some rubber stamping. And then after that, I might add some stenciling work. But I think I need to find a focal image for this page as well. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing here. But right now, this is not crap. I'm really loving this background. This would be great just to do this on a piece of cardstock and cut it down and make it a background to a card. This would look wonderful for that. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is, before I put the clear gesso on here, I am going to take a picture of this and put it in my file for my cards, and I'll print it out later on photoglossy paper and make it into the background panel or the front of a card. I do that a lot with the pages from my art journals, but I'm just loving the colors here and the way this is, the effect it has. So before I do anything more on top of it, I think I want to take a picture of it. So I'm going to finish drawing up here. I'm going to do that picture. I'm going to add some clear gesso, dry that, and then I'll be back and we're going to add our next layer to this page. Okay, so my clear gesso is now dry. One thing I tried on here, and I'm not sure if I liked how it worked or not, is instead of using the foam applicator, the mini ink applicator to apply the gesso, this time I just took a palette knife and spread very quickly a layer of the clear gesso across the page. Now I found if you do it quick enough and don't press too hard that it actually will go on without smearing it too much around. But the other problem I had though is it gets on a little bit too thick, and when it dries, even though it's clear, and maybe this is because I'm putting another layer of clear gesso on top of a layer of clear gesso, it looks a little bit more cloudy. It sort of dulled the finish of the page a little bit. That's really not going to be a big problem because I'm going to put other layers on top of this, but at least now my background with the Oxide inks is now protected. Okay, and by the way, you can wash, don't let the clear gesso dry in your pad. As soon as you're done with it, take it and wash it up with a little soap and water, and you can reuse it. So I've actually got one of these that's dedicated to clear gesso, and that'll go in my rack with my other ink applicators as well. Okay, so now I'm thinking I want to add some a stamped layer to this, and I love using script on things. I don't know, I think it goes with almost anything you can do, and considering that I have not figured out yet what my focal image is going to be, I'm going to go with this stamp from Stampers Anonymous. It's an old style script. It looks like it might have been in a diary or something like that. And I'm going to use StazOn ink, and StazOn inks do come in colors, and I've got two colors here, and I'm thinking I've got Gothic Purple and I've got Claret. I'm trying to stay away from using black at this layer because black is my go-to when I do rubber stamping on backgrounds, and I'm trying to break out of that mold. So I think I'm going to go with the Gothic Purple for the script, and I might put this randomly around. Well, not might, I'm going to randomly put this around. I'm going to look at the coverage of it, and I might use another background stamp of sorts in the Claret and put that on top of that. I like using the StazOn for something like this in layers when I know that I'm going to be using more wet medium on my page. Just like with the clear gesso, if I use the StazOn, it will not react to water, and that's a good thing. And I'm not too concerned if it's broken up, the script, because this is just texture more than anything else on my background. And I'm not even using an acrylic pad for this because I find that if I use my fingers, especially in the journal when it gets this thick, using an acrylic pad doesn't really allow you to put the stamp down completely flat in spots. So this way I can just apply my pressure and get into the curvature of it. Yeah, sure, wear it. The other problem getting stays on your hands too. Yeah, and that's always fun getting that off. And of course, I started this whole thing out and I didn't put on any invisible gloves, barrier cream, which helps. I always forget to use that, so my hands are perpetually dark. Alright, that's, maybe I'll just, a couple of random spots here if there's any ink left on the pad. The stamp, whatever it's called. And I'm purposely overlapping the same stamp just to give it some depth. Okay, guess I've got that. Alright, what I need now is another background stamp. And by the way, if you're interested in this particular stamp, comes from this set by Stampers Anonymous called Ledger Script, and it's CMS 241. So put that back on, and let's see what else I can find. See, I've got this big box. These are my stamps here. Kind of hard to show them in the camera. I used to have them in binders, and if you saw my video about redoing my craft room, I don't know, this one's grabbing me right here, and I've never used this one. Oh, those are nice too on the back. Okay, so yeah, like I was saying, I reorganized all my stamps. They're on these cards and they sit in baskets with names on them. So I put all my background stamps into one basket. Okay, now here's my dilemma. I like this one. I've never used it, I guess, because it's too clean. So I know, because I'm infamous for not cleaning my stamps. So this sort of hexagon kind of honeycomb effect. But here's one that looks like lines in a ledger with splotches. I think I need it. It's, again, I've never used this one either. Can't even tell you what set those come from. They're not a Stamper Anonymous set. So I'm going to use the Claret this time. It's a sort of a dark reddy color. and just throw it down wherever. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that. I wouldn't mind getting a few more of those. See, it's got these little blotches here. I'm going to just ink those up. See if I can. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's good. So there's another thing, you know, you don't have to use an entire stamp. You can just use isolated parts of it. If you see something that's interesting on it. I'm starting to like this quite a bit. Okay. I think it's time to stop. So I don't think there's any more ink on my pad or my stamp anyway. So see what I mean? Look at that. Okay, this is going to be fun getting that cleaned off. I'm glad I don't have to worry about a nice fancy manicure. Okay. Alright, so I've got this layer of stamp, and as I said, I use StazOn, so it's waterproof, so it's not going to reactivate. So what am I going to do next? Now, I think I need to find my focal image so that I can determine where it's going to go, and then if I want to do some stenciling, maybe with some texture paste or something like that, then I'll know where to put that. So I am going to give this a blast with the heat gun as well, just to heat set the StazOn. You don't really have to do it, but I find it just, I don't know if it does anything. It makes me feel good when I do it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so my first thoughts were I was going to find my focal images, and I was going to figure out where their placement was going to be, and then I might do some stenciling on here, maybe with some textured paste, that kind of thing. But as I was looking through my stash of collage items, I came across these images. I think they come from a book about, it's called Dictatorship in Cartoons. So it was political cartoons about various dictators over the years. And then I found another bunch of books that I had cut up that had posters from war and conflict and things like that. And these images grabbed me. And I found these words in there too, and I don't know what they mean. I don't have a clue. I think one's written in Russian. The other is in French. This is Swiss, I think. I really don't care what they mean. I just picked them because of their font and the way they sort of fit with these pictures. This is turning out to be something very different from what I thought I was going to start with that background. I've gone sort of to the dark side, you might say, with this. But I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to go with it, because I think these images are very interesting, and this is sort of the way I'm going to lay it out. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to glue them down with fluid matte medium, and then I might add a border, or I might add some pen work on here as well. So I'll spare you having to watch me glue all these pieces down, and I'll be back once I've got that done. Okay, so I've got my images all glued down. I use fluid matte medium. I haven't sealed over top of them yet because I want to use some pit pens here to do a little shading, and pit pens will probably write better on the clear gesso that's under here than over matte medium. So I just want to give these a little bit of depth, and these are India inks. So if I scribble a little bit around here and then just take my finger, I can sort of make a shadow. They'll only stay wet enough to do this for a few seconds. Let's see, maybe do some Actually, I find they spread a little better on top of the clear gesso. than they do on the matte medium too. So that's a bonus. Another use for clear gesso. Gives it a bit of an aged look. Okay, I think it's enough of that. I got some other colors, but I don't think I'll bother. Well, maybe I'll just experiment just a little bit over here and just see what. Well, that's not bad. I'll just do it in a few spots. Oops. Kind of overran there. Okay, let's stop while we're ahead there. Okay, hit it again with the heat gun for a few seconds here, just to set the India ink. Now I'm thinking, should I add a border on here? I don't know. Actually, I think what I'll just do is sort of a shadow border using, I think I'll use the Oxide Inks again for that. But this time I'll just go all the way around the edges of the page. So I'll come back after I've done. So I got out the Distress Oxide Vintage Photo and my ink applicator, and I've already gone around the edges of this page. I'm just going to show you how I did this on this page. Nothing too drastic, just on the edge with it. This gives it a bit of an aged look and kind of finishes off the page, and the white edges of the page sort of blends those out as well. Maybe a little bit more over here. Okay, so do I want to do anything else to this? A bit of a glare on that one. I'm wondering if I need any pen work on his jacket here, because it's really dark. It's a big solid color of darkness, and at the risk of damaging this, what's this? This is a pastel. What does this look like? As opposed to using a little pen. I'm just sketching in where the shadows are. Now, I don't know if that did much. There's a bit of a glare on here. I think I'll leave that well enough alone. Just as it is, I think that's enough. Okay, now I'm debating. Should I put a layer of matte medium over this or not? Maybe not. Maybe this is enough. Maybe I don't need anything more. These are stuck down pretty good on there. If I add anything more wet, the oxide is going to reactivate up here on the edges. Not going to be a big problem, but no, I think I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to stop while I'm ahead, and I'm going to sign it. So I'll get out my Sigma Uniball pen. And it's May 2017. Okay, I've signed it at the bottom, and I think I am done. So what I usually do when I finish a page like this, I let it sit for a bit. I might hit it again with the heat gun, make sure it's thoroughly dry, and then I give it a coat of final fixative spray as well, a matte coat of it. Just protects it, keeps the pages from sticking together. So anyways, you saw my process in this crap number 10. I don't think this is crap. I think this turned out pretty good. Definitely not what I had in mind. I started off with fairly bright colors in the whole bit, and I wasn't really thinking of doing images that suggest death, war, destruction, kind of a dark setting. But when I saw this image first, and then I found this image, it just built itself from there. So that just goes to show you, you never know what the final product in an art journal page is going to be like. You really can't do much planning for it. You just work on it as it comes, and I find that very, very freeing. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you in a while. Bye-bye.